Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Legend of Korra episode commentary track, and this is going to be the commentary for Legend of Korra Book 2 Spirits K206 The Sting, the 6th episode of Book 2 Spirits. This episode commentary is going to begin with the intro to the episode, so this obviously means that you need to get your episode prepared to go with the Fire, Earth, Air, Water intro for The Sting. I'm going to stop speaking now in a few seconds, and then when I start speaking again, that's when you hit play on your episode, and then you'll be synced up with my commentary track. So I'm going to stop speaking now. Okay, so here we are with K206 The Sting, probably the most divisive episode in Book 2 Spirits, simply because I think it's mainly what they do with the romance in this episode, and that mainly comes down to Mako and Asami apparently getting back together. And that's really the only issue I have with the episode, and it is only a very short part of the episode, but it continues through the rest of the season in terms of the romance plot. What I like about this episode, though, is that it does show that this show can work without Korra being the main focus of an episode. She's in this episode for, I think, a few seconds at the end, and so you really have Mako, Asami, and Bolin, to a lesser extent, taking up the basically reins as the main characters in this episode, and it works surprisingly well. Like, this feels like an episode of Korra, without even Korra really being in it, and that's a huge success, I think. Because the Mako investigation plot is actually pretty interesting. The problem, as I said, is the romance. But anyway, we get an interesting opening here with the boat being attacked, being taken out by some bombs. And obviously, we get straight away that Varric is kind of... that was the ship with Sami's stuff on it, I believe, that they were kind of shipping down south. And that's why they say Varric won't be happy about this. But yeah, and we later find that that's part of his plan to basically have Asami be in this position where she has to agree to this crazy deal where she basically signs over most of the company to him. But here's where I think the Unalaq kind of Escadesna stuff just gets super interesting. He comes out of the thing, just like he's in the spirit world. That's what the portals do. A lot of reveals happen just at that very moment, and they reveal that a dark spirit apparently killed her, and that's all he cares about, you know. You still sort of wonder right now, like, does he know that the dark spirit didn't kill her or what? But he's definitely concerned about this, and I think this is a pretty interesting episode for Unalaq in terms of, okay, we're finally getting around to what his plan actually is, after not fully knowing about what exactly it's about. But here we get Nukchuk, Hero of the South, and it's just hilarious. The guy playing Unalaq is so over the top. It is that Ember Island players just absurdity in the characters with how kind of different they are than real life. You have Naga playing the role of like a kind of panda, and Pabu's in it as well. It's really just fun. It's fun. It's hilarious, and especially when they eventually get to showing the kind of theme song to the show. They even have talking animals. That's brilliant. You're my best Nookity. You're my best friend. And Bolin is a surprisingly decent actor, and you see the kids loving it. There it is. Brilliant song. Just we need that chorus soundtrack to have that on it. It's just brilliant. Battling Northies. Punch him in the mouth. So good. I actually wish, as like specials, they would release all of the episodes of Nooktuk in full. That would be really fun to see. This is also the episode where we start to see Bolin's stardom going to his head a bit, just with regards to kind of him like thinking he can be in a relationship with Ginger and kind of being a bit too forceful with that. And then, especially with how he handles Mako kind of later on in the episode, and then going to some of the later next few episodes as well. And there's his plan. He's kind of going to use this whole thing to get Raiko on his side and so on. But yep, we'll see what happens. He can just fly, apparently, which is hilarious. They didn't even attempt to like edit out the string, which I assume they just can't do anyway. Uh, Not too much to say about this. It's just it's very cleverly done. I think the way they, like the Embryonal players had the amazing special effects. You see the more advanced but still kind of old style special effects that they use to do some of this stuff. It's just I like that they actually put a nice level of focus on it. Like we've already seen a few minutes of Nooktuk footage and stuff like that. It's that classic old style kind of serialized show. Find out next week. And the crowds obviously love this, and it's a huge success for Varric. Really eager to see what they do with book 3 with the whole movers thing. Will Bolin still be a film star? Will there be more film stars? Will they still be made with Varric kind of out of the picture? And there's the kind of his stardom going to his head, thinking that he can just not quite understanding the films, thinking that he's automatically in a relationship in real life with Ginger, even though she understands it completely. Julie, fan favorite already. And there's Mako with the picture of him and Korra together. And straight away we have a Sammy coming into the picture. And here we see our favorite detectives, Lu and Gon, or however you pronounce their names, in there not doing anything. He's just touching his mustache over and over again. And they're just going for the obvious option, like not even thinking about what Mako says, which it's going to happen in a minute. I suppose Mako comes in and they're going to ignore him completely, and that's one of the key points. He says it appeared to be detonated remotely. He's going to walk in there, gather some evidence, and he's going to walk in there. And obviously, we later find out that Varric was basically behind all of this, and he's just completely lying to her in this scene to try and get her in a position where he can just take over her company. And again, immediately Lynn doesn't want to listen to him because he's the rookie. And he comes in, remote detonator, asking just, did they have one of these? And he doesn't know. And he's just like, I don't think they were this, and they just go for the obvious answer, not thinking through anything and stuff like that. And like, it's not like the guy ignores like what he's saying. It's just that he's not sure, and he's the only one who has advice. They're ignoring him. And again, it comes back to what I was talking about in the last episode, and that Lynn. I don't think like it's bad writing on Lynn's part. I think it's just that she has to learn that sometimes you have to listen to the rookies because they have interesting ideas. And in this case, it's Mako. Sammy points out, better job than you. There we go. Lame-brained rookie ideas. And they're just laughing it up even though they're not doing anything. They're just agreeing with Lane. Stupid mustaches. And he immediately came up with this like crazy idea for the bait ship Sting plan, and that's what the name of the episode's about. And they realize how much is at risk here. They're kind of going against the law, and immediately you see Sammy here, saying that this is all she has left with her father in prison and mother gone. All she has left is that the company, and she's eager to make that happen. And this is one of the last chances she has to do anything like this. And Varric coming in on this idea, initially we were just like, oh, he's trying to help them, but as I said throughout this episode, he's just doing everything, getting involved in all these situations to keep this war going, to put Asami in this position where she's going to lose the company, and it's pretty clever how well his idea goes, and how he's been behind the whole thing all along. And it's actually a pretty nicely written mystery in terms of you think it's Unalaq that's involved somehow, and it's all over the place. It's pretty nice. Mako not wanting to tell anyone about the breakup. Interesting. That's what an old style hot tub is like. I wonder how he got that installed so quickly. But who knows. And how did he get the statue carved so quickly as well? That's pretty insane. First piece of Nook Tuk merchandise, I guess. Mm. Mm. There's not a whole lot to say really about a lot of the scenes in this episode. It is just all leading to some of the stuff that happens once the sting operation actually happens. All the lead up to that is really just I have this evidence. I need to recruit you. I'm not helping you. It gets interesting towards the end here when you see that Bolin's stardom's going to his head. You've ignored me for this whole season. Now you need my help. I'm successful now. I'm not going to help you. And for just for basically getting what's coming to him, Mako he burns Bolin completely there, which looked really painful. And they go to the triple threat triads to get some crew members involved in this, which was a nice continuity moment and bringing the triple threats back. But it's just interesting to go straight back to them. Shady Shin. Viper is leading the triple threat triad right now, which is interesting. And I like that he's just I might be able to convince her to give his bending back, since obviously that's an ability from last season. She's done it for a lot of people, except the criminals. That's a nice kind of little moment where she's saying that she gave a lot of people their bending back, but not the criminals, and that's a nice idea, which I hope is maybe further addressed in something else. But the stuff on the ship is actually pretty interesting, especially with Two-Toed Ping here. Who we later find out there's the reason he's not called 12-toed Ping is because there's another one, a guy called that already on the south side. So that's just a funny little continuity moment. And then just the fact that he wants to know, honestly, what it's like dating the Avatar. That's just a kind of funny thing, and it makes sense for him to ask it. And he's forced to admit that he broke up with her. And Asami's just like, what? When did this happen? And none of them can believe him, which I think is just really funny. He just tells everyone that they're like, no, he didn't do that. Korra? You're not going to break up with her. She must have been so angry at you. It's really just funny, and just the way the interactions are all done really well here. And it really makes you just actually like the triple threats because they're just acting like people as opposed to villains in this episode, which is nice. And then coming back to the absurdity of Nook Tuk Hero of the South, giant spinning drill, woman attached to table. That's classic old school things. Torture. The villain just leaves the room, drill coming down extremely slowly. Perfect time to save it. And then that's a joke against a lot of shows out there who do that. Why don't you just do this? No, we have to do something that's even more emotional, even though it doesn't make sense. And then Ginger's, she's all about the job, and Bolin's kind of struggling to understand like which is real, what's not real, and stuff like that. I love that they just had that scene where he just shows them how many toes he has. He's the talker of the group. And this is where Mako finds out what's up. Hmm. Once again, it's all Varric. He knew we assume he knew that Mako would go there. He hired them instead to just keep Mako and Asami distracted, and while they're distracted, he's gonna steal all the stuff from Asami's factories, which we assume he knows the locations of Varric because they're in business together, which is makes sense. Again, it's actually like a really cleverly put together kind of mystery plot. Kind of conspiracy stuff with Varric. It's a really nice plot actually, which leads into like one of our kind of most unique action scenes of this episode with the speedboat boat chase here. Um, Asami, as usual, driving, showing that's one of her main skills. And I suppose that's the problem. One of the only problems, really, I think I have on the whole with book two is that Asami doesn't really get much of a story. This episode actually is one of the only ones that has a lot of Asami kind of focus in it. But there's nothing that really happens after this, in that she basically loses her company to Varric here in terms of like her last warehouse has been raided. She has no decision left to make, and she just signs it away. And then you're just left to assume by the end of the season that with Varric in jail and then missing, that she gets her company back or potentially is in control of Varric's corporation as well. She really just kind of like falls out of the book in terms of being a story-driven character. They do use her skills in that she's like an excellent pilot. She can drive well and all boats and all sort of stuff. They use that well, her skills, but she really needs some character moments in book three, because the only thing in addition to like her showing off her like fighting skills and a little bit of a business plot is this weird getting back together with Mako thing that they do in the episode, which doesn't even amount to anything in itself. As I said, she just kind of drops out of the story. They focus more on why Mako and Korra are not together, are not getting back together, than they do on the fact that Mako and Asami are apparently together. Asami had an epic moment though there where she just absolutely crushed Viper through that building. Somebody call an ambulance. Viper is hurt badly. Um, would love to just like cut to hospital a few hours later and he's just completely in bandages. And then just a really sad look on her face there. I'm ruined. Like she just realizes straight away it's over. It's gone. The last thing she had, as she said earlier on in the episode, gone. Um, and you do feel for her. I do think she could have been given a lot more time in the book, but at the same time, it wasn't as interesting as a lot of the other stuff going on. Um, but you do really feel for her. It's the one kind of really emotional thing you can connect to with Asami in the episode. Mako's not going to give up on her, and here, here's the moment where it's just like, what? Don't do this with the romance plot. I like that she apologized immediately, but especially like when you go into like the next few episodes and suddenly like Bowling comes in on them and they're like, "Oh, you're back together," and they don't deny it, and they apparently are back together. It's just like, the way they're writing, I'm not even going to talk about Mako as a character because I actually like Mako. It's just the way they're writing him with regards to like romance stuff in terms of getting back together with like he breaks up with Asami and is immediately together with Korra. They say they love each other. Then they break up in the heat of the moment and he's immediately back together with Asami. And it's just the way they're writing him and not stuff that I actually dislike about the character. It's just weird. Because he shows a lot of initiative in this book with regards to this plot in terms of he comes up with the idea, he sticks to his guns like Korra did in like book one over what was up with Hiroshi. She stuck to her guns over that and she was correct. He was right in this one and sticks to his guns even though everyone except Asami like doesn't believe him, even his own brother. And I really kind of admire his character and actually think he has a pretty interesting arc. But that arc, as interesting as it is, and he gets a big kind of resolution in terms of, he gets promoted by Lin. That's a big kind of ending to that arc. It's just kind of ruined a little bit by the fact that he has such a all over the place romance arc, and they just need to kind of calm it down, really. I'll say it again. I think that this book did more to actually show Mako and Korra as a strong couple than like a couple that isn't going to work together, like they say in the last episode. But this is a great realization scene here. He sees these remote explosions going off for film purposes and just instantly recognizes it as just lower scale versions of what would happen in the actual bombings. Sees the identical remote detonators made by Varric's company and makes the deduction Varric's behind it all, but she signed over her company to him before this happens, and Varric instantly goes from being odd character to you did not just do that to Asami, and instant like villain turn, but they managed to do it cleverly over the course of the season. That he doesn't do anything like so villainous that you just absolutely hate him. You still like him for how odd he is and stuff like that. And and that's the thing. He never just outright makes you hate him, because there are moments like that. He was just like, yeah, I did some bad to you, and you. But I did some good things too, and he's just kind of like this guy who like you are completely chancing your arm doing all this stuff, but I love you, Varric. But then the one moment we get of Korra in the episode here, she washes up on an island. She's not dead. Wakes up, and we see fire sages find her, and she has no idea what's going on here. Airbending, amazing airbending move actually to move away. But then the revelation, she doesn't know who she is. She's apparently lost her memory. I thought this is a really good cliffhanger that only works because they only give Korra a short amount of time in the episode. That she's not a focus at all until the very end. She can't remember anything because of this dark spirit attack. She's washed up on apparently a Fire Nation island, not the actual Fire Nation, just one of the islands near it, and she doesn't remember anything, and you're just wondering, where on earth is this going? And if not for the fact that we knew about beginnings coming up, and we're like, okay, so she didn't remember anything, something's going to happen, where she finds out the story of Avatar 1, we would have been completely lost and just blown away by that ending. But we knew we were getting the episodes with Juan coming up next. But yeah, it's a I like that episode. It is pretty good, and to be fair, it is only that one moment where they where Asami kisses Mako. Again, it's Asami kisses Mako. So if you have any complaints about the romance, it's actually Asami's fault in this episode, not Mako's. But it is something that they continue, in that Mako and Asami are kind of together in the next few episodes. Asami gets jealous when Korra remembers stuff, but not everything. She doesn't remember the breakup, and then Bolin says that they're together. It's just weird. I could talk for hours about how I kind of don't really get what they did with the romance. I like shows that I watch to have romance, and I like the fact that Avatar and Korra both actually go just full in the on the romance sometimes. But the writers at least seem to assume that we like romance drama when I think a lot of us just were like, can we just have a couple that gets together and stays together happily? Could we not just have that, please? Like, we waited 61 episodes for Katara and Aang to like actually get together as a couple. Could you not just like have Mako and Korra get together and stay together with no problems at the start? Because the worry obviously is that going into even book three and book four, that I don't think Makora is done with. I think that ultimately is the end game relationship. That there's just going to be this back and forth for the next two books, and they'll only fully get together as a couple in the last episode, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, when they could have done. They could do so much development with them as a couple over the course of these two books, because realistically they could do something really interesting because of the age of these characters if we end like book four with like Mako and Korra at around 18, 19, 20 years old, where Mako like proposes to Korra or something like that, because that would be like a mature way to end it if they actually have a deep romantic arc or something like that, that they actually get married at the end and we like see the proposal or something like that. I would like that to happen, just to set in stone that, hey, romance drama is over. These two are together, and it's something that you couldn't do because the characters were so young in Avatar: The Last Airbender. But yep, that's my episode commentary for The Sting. Really excited for the next two. Avatar 1, Beginnings Part 1, and then Beginnings Part 2. So thanks for listening to this one, and bye.